Hello students, this lecture is for the chapter Biological Classification. Biological classification is the scientific arrangement of the organisms into the groups. Organisms means bacteria, amoeba, fungus, plants or animals. On the basis of their similarities and the relationships, the organisms are arranged into the various groups. Next is to recognize and to precisely describe about the basic unit of classification. That you know already if it is. The basic unit of classification is species. So just recalling, species is the basic unit of classification, means a group of individuals of the same type which are capable of interbreeding but are reproductively isolated is called a species. So, as you know, cell is the basic unit of a life or organism. Similarly, for this unit of diversity or this chapter biological classification, the basic unit is species. Very important point here. Next, classification also indicate or shows the phylogenetic or evolutionary relationship of the organisms. So phylogeny is again a very important word over here. Phylogeny, a new word. If it is for you, please mark it or highlight it with a 2 or a 3 stars. Phylogeny is a branch of biology, we can say, which shows which indicate the study of evolutionary history of an organism, means how the simpler forms they become complex, how the slow gradual change takes place. Correct? How the simplicity leads to complexity. That branch of a biology which deals with the study of evolutionary history of organism is called a phylogeny. So means under these 3 points we have taken up is the main 3 objectives of the biological classification. That means why we classify the organisms. That is very important here, or even a 1 or a 2 mark question is there कि classification क्या है or why we classify the organisms. So different scientists, they made an effort to classify this living world, this living world into the groups. Aristotle, the ancient biologist, the word I am using is ancient, name indicate, बहुत पुराना scientist है, as you can have a look, it's the lifespan is in the BCs, before Christ. Aristotle, who is the father of zoology, biology, embryology, great scientist, divide the living world into the 2 kingdoms. Means all the living organisms are divided into how many kingdoms? Just only the 2 kingdom classification was proposed by a great, that's an ancient biologist. Means in the earlier attempt, when the science takes an origin about, is the 2 kingdom classification is Plantae and Animalia. Means Aristotle classified the plants based on its morphology, just on morphology. Means, you know the term is morphology, means again this is actually the branch of biology which deals with the study of structure of an organism. Morphology deals with the study of structure of an organism. Repeating, is it okay? So plants based on the texture, we can say, or on the structure, classified into three categories: tall, long, tall plants, woody, we can say, is the trees. Then short, medium sized plants, woody, is the shrubs. Then the soft, delicate plants called herbs. That's only for the kingdom Plantae, we can say. So next is the kingdom Animalia, is divided into the two groups: animals with RBCs, animals without RBCs. Means with RBCs understood is the chordates or vertebrates, and without RBCs means the non-chordates. So that was the earlier attempt. This was the earlier attempt of an ancient biologist. So just remember, from the ancient word I'm repeating is ए से कि Aristotle है और ये ancient biologist है. And later on, the Linnaeus propose or support the Aristotle's classification. Just see, the lifespan is again mentioned here about in 1707 to 1778. Linnaeus, who is the father of taxonomy, divide the living world into the two kingdom system of classification. Means Linnaeus support the Aristotle's classification. So here one mark question is there: who supports the Aristotle classification? Or name the two scientists who proposed the two kingdom classification. Or in another form, that is, who was the earliest one to propose the two kingdom classification? So Linnaeus divide the living world into the two kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. Understood, all plants are under the kingdom Plantae and all animals are kept under the kingdom Animalia. Okay, so these two kingdom classification is having certain drawbacks or the shortcomings of the two kingdom system of classification is this system not being able to distinguish between the prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Means prokaryotes, if you remember, if you knows about, pro means a primitive, karyote means the nucleus. Nucleus is not well defined as prokaryotes. Eukaryotes, U is for a true, karyote means the nucleus. Eukaryotes, they have a true nucleus or they have a well-defined nucleus. But in the two kingdom classification, no distinction is between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So example for it is bacteria or the cyanobacteria, which are prokaryotes. They are kept in the kingdom Plantae, which includes the eukaryotes. Next point. The two kingdom system of classification not being able to distinguish between the eukaryotes and prokaryotes, that we have taken up already. Second point is between unicellular and multicellular organisms. Unicellular means the one-celled. Chlamydomonas is one-celled motile organism but autotrophic है, means is having chloroplast, is kept along with the Spirogyra, which is multicellular. Just repeating, Chlamydomonas is unicellular while Spirogyra is multicellular. So both of them, they are kept in the plant kingdom under the group is algae. That is another drawback for the two-kingdom classification. So your next point is this two-kingdom classification not being able to distinguish between photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. Photosynthetic means plants, they prepare their food themselves, but fungus is kept, which is colorless. Their cell wall is made up of chitin. The fungus is kept in the kingdom Plantae. They are saprophytes, if it is, fungus is saprophytic. So this system of classification not being able to distinguish between photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. Next is certain organisms, especially the unicellular organism is Euglena, that is having a connecting link between the kingdom Plantae or Animalia, is studied by both botanists as well as zoologists because it is unicellular, photosynthetic, as well as heterotrophic, means shows the auto and hetero both mode of nutrition, but it is motile, is having a flagella. So means these are the main drawbacks or the shortcomings of the two-kingdom classification. Students, in this topic we have covered the 2 to 3 mark question. Further, why two-kingdom system of classification was rejected. These are the drawbacks, shortcomings, or why rejected. Okay, so if this question is a 2 to 3 marks, if you are just writing not being able to distinguish between prokaryote, eukaryotes, unicellular, multicellular, etc. So you are getting only the 50% credit in the answer, please. Okay. So in biology, whenever you are writing, students must write always with the example. Justify your statement always is with the example. That I have already taken up in the first point is bacteria is prokaryote. Next we have taken up unicellular Chlamydomonas is kept in the kingdom Plantae. Next is about a fungus, non-photosynthetic, kept with the photosynthetic groups. I think clear to all of you about this topic of the two-kingdom classification. Okay. Later on, living world is divided into the three-kingdom system of classification. Means two-kingdom system is followed by three-kingdom classification. Separate group is given to the unicellular animals, algae, and a fungus. That kingdom is named as kingdom Protista. Okay. Afterwards, the next one more modification is there, and in that one more modification is a four-kingdom system of classification was proposed. Means from the kingdom Plantae, Animalia, or from the Protista, the prokaryotes are taken out and kept in the separate group of the kingdom Monera. So again, still the certain drawbacks is there about the fungus. Fungus means which are saprophytic. They are kept still along with the plants. So even these two kingdom, four kingdom, three kingdom, all is rejected. And afterwards, the five kingdom system of classification was proposed. This five kingdom system of classification was proposed by Robert H. Whittaker in 1969. He is the American taxonomist. Students, now This year is mentioned in your NCERT book. That's why I've mentioned about to you regarding Aristotle and Linnaeus also. Mind you, please take care of from your NCERT name of scientist, years is very important for even the objective questions. So by the time we have covered is the 1 or 2 questions already who propose the 5 kingdom system of classification, and it is now the accepted classification, that is Whittaker. In which year he proposed this classification? It's 1969. Just see, a long time period is there. In that earlier attempt was Aristotle, followed by Linnaeus, that's in 1758. The lifespan was mentioned about, and in 1758 Linnaeus proposed this classification. So next we are coming to the 2-mark question over here under the topic of the 5 kingdom classification. That is, what is the basis of the Whittakers classification? Means Whittaker ने living world को 5 kingdoms में divide किया, and what was his basis? On the basis of, number 1 is cell type, means whether organism is prokaryote or a eukaryote. Is that okay? You should know, students, the word meaning, and that is very important for you to improve your vocabulary, I can say, in your biology. Pro stands here for first or a primitive. Karyote means is the nucleus. U stand for true, karyote is for a nucleus. So very correct, very important point he has taken into consideration is the cell type. That's why, means all the prokaryotes, they are taken out and kept in a separate kingdom, and eukaryotes, they are further classified. That's number 1 is organisms are whether prokaryote or eukaryote. Next, he also considered this point very well about the, that is a body organization, means organism is unicellular or multicellular. Next is about the mode of nutrition, that is maybe autotroph or heterotrophs. And the last is very important point to be written is in your exam, students, if the question is 2 marks repeating, phylogenetic relationship. The system of classification explains very well the evolutionary relationship among the organisms. For evolutionary, the word is the phylogeny. So स्टूडेंट्स बेटा आप रिकॉल करें तो ये जो इसका बेसिस था क्लासिफिकेशन का, यही थे ड्रॉबैक्स थे 2 किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशन के. अगर आप इन पॉइंट्स पर ध्यान से स्ट्रेस करें, समझें, तो आपके 2 क्वेश्चन सब्जेक्टिव तैयार हो रहे हैं और ऑब्जेक्टिव भी इस पार्ट में से बहुत आता है इन योर नीट एग्ज़ाम. 1 वॉज जो उसके ड्रॉबैक्स थे उसको ओवर रूल कर दिया किसने? विटेकर के 5 किंगडम क्लासिफिकेशन ने. ओके, सो मीन्स वी कैन से अबाउट इट इज over a time, we can say over a time attempt has been made always to improve the classifications, and in that improvement not only the morphological, we can say, or physiological means the study of functions of an organisms, and even the reproductive similarities is also taken into consideration. But definitely along with all this, repeating morphological, physiological and reproductive similarities, but very important is phylogenetic or evolutionary relationship is always to be considered whenever the organisms are to be classified. So means we can say about these kind of changes can take place in the future also, depending upon the improvement in our understanding, or we will come to know more about the characteristics and the evolutionary relationships of the organisms. Okay, students. So in this part of a general, I have covered your NCERT, a back question. It is, that is, discuss how the classification system have undergone the several changes over a period of a time. This is your NCERT back question. So that's why I have taken up comparison in this topic of the five kingdom. Okay. So next, coming to the characteristics of the five kingdoms. To discuss about the characteristics, we have to go through this in a tabular form, and this is your NCERT table to make you students more clear about the characteristics in this tabular form. I am going to take up in a point step by step the characteristics of these five kingdoms. And for this topic, in your school exam, it can be an important question of a 3 marks or a 2 marks. What are the main important characteristics of the five kingdoms? Although, we are going to take up these five kingdoms separately in details in this unit itself. But when they are in the school, they are asking about the characteristics of the five kingdom, and that is 3 marks, then definitely the requirement is of this table only. Or the question can be from your this topic is the difference between Monera and Protista, or difference between the Monera or fungi, etc. is the types of the questions from your this tabular form. But to make you more clear about these characteristics of the five kingdom classification, we will take up step by step the points. Okay, so starting with that, five kingdom system of classification, which was proposed by the Whittaker, accepted classification है. This living world is divided into the five kingdoms. Number 1 is kingdom Monera. Number 2 is Protista. Number 3 is kingdom fungi. Next is kingdom Plantae. And next is kingdom Animalia. So that is the five kingdom classification. So next, first of all, we will keep the NCERT book always in the mind, but to make you more clear about that contents of your NCERT, we have to switch on to some other method so that there should not be any cramming in any topic. Should learn each and every topic with some understanding only, always. So next, before taking up the characteristics of these five kingdoms, you should know the examples of these groups. Okay, so kingdom Monera, example is bacteria, blue-green algae. Kingdom Protista, the example is amoeba. The example of the kingdom fungi is rhizopus. And Plantae, as such, you know, in the world is so many plants, all mango, citrus plant, guava, grapes, etc. Animals means all cat, dog, rat, etc. or a tiger, etc. So these are the examples of these groups. So we have taken up already the main point in the classification is very important is evolution. Phylogeny means. So Whittaker explained very well this classification because the first point comes here. So in these points itself, we are covering the advantages also of the 5 kingdom classification. That is, first point is we can take up. So what he did, he has taken out all the prokaryotes, means the one who don't have the well-defined nucleus. They are taken out from the kingdom Plantae and kept or given a separate kingdom named as kingdom Monera. So means the Monerans are prokaryotes. Then the eukaryotes, remaining all kingdoms are eukaryotes. Is it okay? Means you are at this point we are taking up is about the cell type. Cell type is maybe prokaryote or eukaryote. Primitive nucleus, first formed, not well-defined nucleus, kept or given a separate kingdom, Monera. Then Protista, fungi, Plantae, Animalia, all are eukaryotes. The next point he considered is about the body organization. You know already organization means arrangement. So understood the primitive life is there in the kingdom Monera. So those primitive organisms, they are all unicellular. So means by the time we come to know about in the body organization is kingdom Monera includes the unicellular prokaryotes. Simplicity leads to complexity is the phylogeny. This classification shows very well, very clearly about the evolutionary relationship among the organisms. So kingdom Protista includes the eukaryotes, but still they are unicellular. Means, just see if we are considering the difference between Monera and Protista, we come to know about both are unicellular. ये तो हुआ similarity था. But Monerans, prokaryotes, तो advancement or evolution or change or complexity क्या आई in the second kingdom is they become eukaryotes. Okay, understood. Next onwards, fungus, plants and animals all are multicellular. Is this okay? The next point, this was of body organization. Next point is about the cell wall. Is very important point because earlier in that 2 kingdom classification, all organisms who have the cell wall, they are kept in the kingdom Plantae, and the one who don't have the cell wall, they are kept in the animal kingdom. But the cell wall composition is different in the different groups. Kingdom Monera means cell wall is made up of polysaccharide and amino acids, commonly called as a non-cellular. It's not of a cellulose. So in this discussion, we are covering the drawbacks or iski advantages we are covering. That is very important. The 2 or 3 marks for this topic also. So the kingdom Monera includes or have the cell wall, but the cell wall is not of cellulose. Next is kingdom Protista. In the kingdom Protista, cell wall is not present in all the organisms. It's in the certain examples the cell wall present, in the certain that is absent. Next is kingdom Fungi, which is eukaryote multicellular. But the cell wall is made up of chitin, or also pronounced as chitin. It is commonly called as a fungal cellulose also, but not it is that cell wall of a cellulose which is found in a plants. Kingdom Plantae is having the cell wall made up of cellulose. Understood. In the kingdom Animalia, cell wall is absent. The next point we take into the consideration is about the nuclear membrane. Means nucleus is well defined or not. If nuclear membrane is absent, it is called a nucleoid. So kingdom Monera includes the prokaryotes, and prokaryotes में genetic material which is without nuclear membrane is called a nucleoid. While Protista, fungi, plantae and animalia, all of them, the next onwards, they have a well-defined nucleus. Okay, that is for the nuclear organization. Is it okay? So, if we will consider further is about their mode of nutrition, understood kingdom Monera includes maybe autotrophs or heterotrophs, maybe photosynthetic or chemosynthetic, or kingdom Protista, if that includes the organisms with a cell wall or cell wall absent, means maybe autotrophs or heterotrophs. Kingdom fungi, which is non-photosynthetic group, understood they are saprophytic, means is the heterotrophs. Kingdom plantae, understood it is autotrophs, and the animalia is having the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So all these points are taken into the consideration while the classification of the 5 kingdom system of classification of the Whittaker, which is accepted. So understood, students, by this way, when we have taken up the point by point, unicellular prokaryotes, they are given or kept in a separate kingdom, kingdom Monera. Definitely they are all very happy with this. Then eukaryotes, unicellular, are given a separate group, kingdom Protista. Next is non-photosynthetic, means it is a fungus which is kept in a separate group. And this classification is based on the level of organization and the nutrition. Definitely this relationship, these classifications bring about the phylogenetic relationship among the organisms, means these are the advantages of the 5 kingdom classification. Okay, clear? So if we will consider about then the drawbacks of the 5 kingdom classification, in that drawbacks comes the one example is from the euglena, which is the connecting link between plants and animal, because it's having a mixotrophic mode of nutrition, means a mixed mode of nutrition, that is autotrophs as well as heterotrophs. So the 5 kingdom classification not being able to distinguish between the unicellular and multicellular organism, especially in the case of algae. And even the kingdom, this 5 kingdom classification, Monera and Protista, these two groups, these two kingdoms include the organisms which may have the wall, cell wall, or they don't have, or they may be photosynthetic or maybe the non-photosynthetic. And the next is viruses are not included in any of the classification, in any of the kingdoms in this 5 kingdom classification. So these are the main drawbacks. So means, students, here it can be asked in your schools about your 2 or 3 marks. We have covered the 2 questions, the advantages and the drawbacks of the 5 kingdom classification. Okay, right? Thank you.